Hello and welcome to the Start Inward podcast. Every week, new episodes are brought to inspire you to take action, challenge your mindset, and encourage you to love yourself. I'm your host, Hannah, and I'm so glad you're here. If you are in a place right now where you feel lost, lonely, and unmotivated, I do want to say that you are not the only one. We all experience these emotions all the time. And with me today, I have the one and only Joy Dushey. I'm so glad she's here. And let me give her a moment to introduce herself.
Hi, it's so great to be with you, Hannah. Thank you for having me. I'm Joy Dushey, and I am a holistic and spiritual guide. I'm a breathwork facilitator. I'm a mom. I'm a grandmother. I'm many things. I was actually just writing about this for my content this coming Monday on my social media, that I think we identify as many roles in our life, and we take on different labels of what we are and who we identify as. But ideally, I think, just really getting back to the unique version of who we truly are underneath it all is the most important. And we lose sight of that along the way of life and experiences. So I think it's really important for us to really identify and be on that constant quest of like who we are in the world and, our authentic, true expression.
Exactly. And today we're going to be talking about how to reconnect with yourself. And like Joy says, how to find your true self. So I want to start and get into it. So, Joy, the first question that I have for you today is, what does it mean to be disconnected from yourself?
Yeah, to be disconnected from yourself is to kind of feel like you're lost, like you don't really know yourself. Perhaps you feel empty, you feel stuck, you feel overwhelmed, and like you can't really even make a decision for yourself, because if you don't know yourself, you're disconnected from yourself.
And why do people feel disconnected from themselves? Like, what do these emotions mean and where do they stem from?
So I'd say, like I was saying earlier, sometimes through our life experiences, we take on different ideas, we take on different roles, we lose sight of what our value system is, what our truth is, and we just get so swirled up in all of that chaos, and that we don't even understand who we are anymore. And then we feel so disconnected. When you feel disconnected and you feel lost from the core being of who you are, you don't even know who you are anymore. It can really make you feel very, sad. It can make you feel disillusioned, and it's a very hard place to be. And there's a broad spectrum. Like there's, some people who are living and thriving in their life, and they're living a spiritual life and so on. They can still feel like just subtle moments of feeling disconnected. And then there are people that just feel way disconnected and, are really lost and stuck and not living at all, understanding or even knowing how to move through their life, like kind of like even not knowing what step to take, forward and how to move through their lives.
So, would you say that when people feel disconnected, when they feel like they're lost, they're unmotivated, would you say that this stems from them not being in congruence with their authentic selves?
Yeah, I think that like I said, there's always like, you know, um, a spectrum of how far disconnected they are. So I think that we're, really getting in touch with who your authentic self is something that we can constantly touch in on, and it's just like with self-love. It's like, you can feel like you really love yourself, but I feel like it's never fully, you're never like fully there,
Mhm.
So it's the same thing with your authentic self. Like you're on a constant like quest to like really touch in with who your authentic self is. But I think that people that are really far from their authentic self, those are the people that you see, they're just like really going along, they're not even understanding who they are, they don't even know what they stand for, they just don't feel like they even have hard time making decisions, a lot
Mhm.
of indecisiveness. Yeah.
What would you say are common signs that signal that you or someone else may be feeling this way? Because yes, there are times when I'm very indecisive. Yes, there are times when I just don't know what to do or don't know if I'm going in the right direction. And I'm assuming, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. I'm assuming that these, like I mentioned, they're very common to have. So if this is like a recurring pattern, is that when I'm disconnected, or how can I know when I'm disconnected?
Okay. Yeah, not to say that, being indecisive is definite signal that you're really lost from yourself or disconnected from yourself. That's not the case. Indecisiveness can happen from other things too. I'd say that people that are feeling very overwhelmed, that's a sign of being disconnected. People that feel very lost, they feel stuck, they feel like they really can't get motivated about anything, they feel inspired at all. They actually will make poor choices, destructive behaviors. You could see that that's someone that would be disconnected from themselves. Somebody that would say, "Oh, it's so wrong to do something," and then the very next moment, they would actually be caught in that behavior of doing that wrong thing, right?
Mhm.
So they're not even in touch with their values. They don't know what they stand for, like I said. So when you start to see any of those behaviors, you can tell that that person is disconnected from themselves. Again, poor choices, destructive behaviors, substance abuse, anything like that. Not living a healthy lifestyle because they don't really even value their life either.
Right. And I do want to go back to a point that you touched on when you said that people who are disconnected from themselves, they do things that they know they don't like or they know that they shouldn't do. I actually watched a video on this recently, and I think the word for it is called cognitive dissonance. And it's like you're not living in alignment with your values. You're not practicing what you preach, and you're not doing the things that you know that you should be doing.
Yeah.
So my question now is, what does reconnecting with yourself look like when you're feeling lost, lonely, and unmotivated?
Yeah, so again, it depends on the degree of how disconnected you are with yourself. You might want to call a therapist and just like have someone that can help you. If you can't afford therapy or a coach, you can also like reach out to a good friend that's trustworthy that can just really be there for you to hear you out and to hear how you're feeling and to validate your feelings, and also perhaps like not give unsolicited advice right away, but just to even to like hear you. And you should never be alone with your thoughts. And if you're feeling really stuck or really disconnected from yourself, you should reach out to somebody trustworthy. And that's the first thing I'd say. And then also just finding time to be alone with like what's going on the inside. So I always say like finding time to get quiet and to pause and to really contemplate on what's going on the inner lens of your being, and to really touch in with those feelings. Then to accept yourself and really forgive yourself. It's okay. And it's okay to feel the way you're feeling, and to give yourself that radical acceptance is the most important thing first, like self-forgiveness, self-acceptance. And then from there, you can start to touch in with who is Hannah underneath it all. We put on these masks, we take on different roles, and who is she, and what does she really love, and what does she care about in the world? And get in touch with your core values. What are the values that are so important to you? What do you stand for? What really means something to you? And you could start to really unpack all of that information. I'd say get a journal and start journaling things out like that, and just really honing in and making time to be with yourself, to get to know yourself and to love yourself. There is just an eternal journey path of self-love that we have to start first with the awareness underneath it all, and like really forgiving yourself first, accepting yourself first, and then making time to be with yourself and accept all the versions of who you are, and loving all parts of who you are, and then just allowing that version of yourself to really start expressing into the world, this is who Hannah is, this is me, and I get to, express myself authentically, this authentic version of myself. And you start to feel way more embodied, way more integrated, way more connected.
In your own personal journey to finding your true self and reconnecting with your authentic self, what did the process look like? Because right now, as I'm like slowly starting to get into that, slowly starting to journal and like unmask myself and rediscover like what my values are, what I believe in, what I want, it's not easy to say the least. It's
Yeah.
takes a long time for me to really sit there and to say, okay, this is how I'm feeling. And then it's even harder for me to sit there and say, okay, I accept this and I forgive myself. What has your own process and journey been like? And like with the person that you are today, how long did it take you to get there?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Oh boy, it's been such a long journey of, I remember, I'm just like, I'm remembering one day, like the freedom that I felt when I started to really get in touch with my authentic version of myself and really started to feel that connection underneath it all. And what it took for me was like really stepping away from the life that I was living that was kind of masking and not allowing, like it was like going along living without the meaning and the purpose that I wanted, that I knew it was actually causing me suffering because I wasn't living with that meaning. And it was just like, what I identified with was like how I looked, the restaurants that we were eating at, and like the lifestyle and all of those things that really were very superficial for me. But underneath, I knew there was so much more. And so for me, it took stepping away from that life. In a way, I mean, I was still married and I still had my community, and I was like, it's not like I moved to Australia, but I did like step away from the routined life that I was living. And I was like doing things that felt more aligned, like taking workshops and taking classes and meditating and doing things like that. And when I started to just feel all this freedom and liberation, I was like, oh my God, I'm feeling like I'm finding joy again, and I got in touch with the younger version of myself and what she loved to do, which is another great thing that you can do, is also get in touch with your inner child and get in touch with the little Hannah that loved to play and be free spirited and do things that are just like that and more playful and more youthful. And then I'd say that along the way, 20 years later, maybe more, we sometimes entering relationships or roles that we take on, we can lose ourselves in those relationships or in those roles or whatever life, presents us with. And so that's why it's a constant like practice, and it's a constant art to come back to yourself. And that's why my daily routines and my daily practice is, so sacred to me. It's something that I never ever skip it, unless obviously there's an emergency or something that, is once in a blue moon that I miss my morning practice or my rituals that really keep me very, very much connected to who I am and myself.
Joy, what I'm noticing is that in finding yourself and reconnecting with yourself and living a life that's authentic, it's about finding things that you align with. So doing things that make you happy, that make you feel free, that give you these feelings of independence and that basically align with your values. Would you say that in this process, like you're adding things into your life, but is there also things that you've noticed that you've had to subtract from your life? So are there people that you've had to let go of, things that you had to stop doing? Can you explain a little bit more about this?
Absolutely. So something that if you were to head to my website, it's called thejoyfulapproach.com. I've created an integrative life system years ago, and it has 12 pillars to the Joyful Approach life system. One of which is the first tier is about how we live day to day, how we eat, breathe, sleep, move, think about our life purpose, and hydrate. And the second tier has to do with our core values, self-practice, daily intentions, our living intentionally, setting boundaries for ourselves, self-love, and living authentically. And so what I do is I am, it's an 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time I'm, sleeping well, hydrating, eating well, moving, really connected to my life purpose, so on, and getting really good sleep. And so, if someone was to tell me, Joy, we're going to go to a club and we're going to be drinking tequila, until 3 a.m., that doesn't align with my lifestyle, that joyful approach lifestyle. I love to have fun, don't get me wrong. So there is, like I said, the 20%, but that's not what I'm doing 80% of the time, right? So when I know, and I'm really, really honed into this life system that I'm living, those are my core values, and I'm living accordingly. So I know what I'm really grounded in, what I stand for, also what I believe in, and so I make choices that are very much connected to my values, my truth, the lifestyle that brings me to a higher version of myself.
I love that you said when you make choices, you are more in alignment with yourself, because that's ultimately what self-love is. Making decisions, making choices that you know that you're going to benefit from, that you know that are going to make you the better person, that's going to get you closer to your goals. So I love that you said that. Thank you. As you know, every day is not the same. Every day we wake up with different emotions, feelings, sensations, and I've also noticed this in myself. So one day I wake up, I'm super positive, I'm happy, I'm just like ready to work towards my goals and do what I want. But then there are other days where I just feel like sluggish, I'm tired, I feel lost, I question what I'm doing. I'm like, is this even getting me where I want to go? What can we do when this happens?
I love this question so much. So you're right, spot on. You're lucky that you wake up sometimes feeling so positive. So there is, when we understand the brain, the human brain, what we research says that it actually takes, we actually are wired to go to the negative bias. So we're actually, very drawn to the negative as humans. And so what will happen is they say it takes 7 positive thoughts to negate a negative thought. Isn't that crazy?
That is interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah. So when we understand that, we can actually just release, like, it's not your fault that you sometimes wake up feeling lethargic or not as motivated or just feeling negative or not, whatever it is, not energized, right? Like you're in the negative bias.
Right.
Okay. So knowing that is why it's so important to have these practices in place that are going to set you up for success, that are going to help you to get out of that feeling and to motivate you and to alchemize. Alchemy is one of my favorite words. It's my main offering of the Joyful Approach healing sessions. And what that does is it helps us to come out of that and to realize all that is available for us in a positive way. So for me, when I wake up in the morning, the first thing that I do say a prayer that is thanking God for returning my soul back to my body, and I am always so grateful for a new day to become a better version of myself, regardless of all the circumstances in my life or whatever happened the day before, or whatever my mood is. And so already I'm opening up myself to the possibility of change, of transformation. Staying open is so important, no matter what your circumstances are. Staying open and really believing that there is the possibility of even the most immediate change, which I call the alchemy. And so right away, after I say that little prayer, I do also say gratitude for 5 things that I'm thankful for and why I'm thankful for them. That's causing an immediate shift. It's an immediate shift in your body, your cells, in your heart, your mind, your soul. So saying gratitude right away. There's always something to be grateful for. You're
Mhm.
grateful you woke up this morning and you woke up in your healthy body. And if it's not healthy, we're going to ask, and pray, right? So there are practices that I'm doing right away from the moment that I wake up to hopefully transmute whatever that energy is, the negativity, the circumstance, the lethar that you feel, and to motivate you into something change that will change you. And that's why meditation is also really important, because you're quieting the thoughts and you're creating space from whatever that circumstance was, whatever the emotion, the energy that you're feeling. So breathing into your body, taking at least 5 minutes a day to just do some nice quieting of the mind, breathing into mindfulness. And there's no doubt, like no doubt whatsoever, that you're going to feel better with some kind of ritual like this. Then journaling is always so helpful. Getting your thoughts out on paper, 3 pages, taking a walk, moving your body, pushing yourself. Sometimes we don't feel inspired or motivated to do it,
Mhm.
but you're going to feel better after. Put some great music on, go for a walk, go for a run, go dance it out.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. You mentioned journal prompts, and I know you talked about journaling a lot, but are there any specific journal prompts that has helped you a lot when it comes to writing down your thoughts and feelings? And if so, what are they?
Yeah. Personally, like, I love to journal 3 pages, like do morning pages, which is stream of consciousness. What you're doing is you're just dumping into the pages and you're not thinking about what you're writing. So that's a very therapeutic way of journaling.
Mhm.
And there's never ever been one time in my entire history of journaling that I haven't come to find answers just through that process of journaling. So morning pages, 3 pages, stream of consciousness. Don't filter or edit out what you're going to write. Um, but literally, like, I mean, just writing like I am feeling and just tuning in and maybe taking a deep breath and just noticing what you're feeling first. And then you can, I was actually just creating this for my content, something about our wounds, our core wounds. So noticing where you felt triggered maybe the day before. I felt triggered when, or I didn't feel good when, just tuning into your body, because what we want to do is we really want to get into the body and notice how that trigger or how that negative feeling manifested in the body, where you felt it in the body. And
Mhm.
so I felt it in my body here, and then maybe finding a resolve. So if your core wound is, I felt triggered when so and so happened, and then you can trace it back to the wound that you felt like you weren't enough. I didn't feel like I was smart enough to be in that room, something like that. So
Mhm.
then we want to create the positive affirmation, the positive thought, which is, I am worthy, I do belong there. And then you find forgiveness within yourself, and then when you think about why you belong there, why it is that you are worthy, then you can tune into how it feels to be in that place in your body.
Mhm.
And then that's the affirmation that we want to stay with, and we want to continuously do these kind of say these affirmations and do practices like this on a daily basis. So I always say continuity is everything. Being consistent is everything. I didn't get here. I would never have gotten to where I am today if I didn't have consistency in my life. Okay. So my routines, my daily practices, the circumstances are going to come left and right. And it's about really staying consistent in your life with all of these beautiful, positive practices that are unique for each and every person. I'm not saying that everybody should be doing it my way,
Right.
but finding the practices that are really true for you, that you identify with as that resonate with you.
Joy, even after teaching holistic and intuitive living for so many years, are there still moments in your life where you feel like you're lost, lonely, and unmotivated? And if so, what do you do when these emotions come up?
Mm. Yes, I'd say that from time to time, it's very human to still feel disconnected from myself. Like I said, entering relationships, I believe that a relationship is the most beautiful spiritual practice because when you're in a conscious relationship, because what you're doing is you're also giving so many parts of yourself in a good way to compromise and to be, so loving in that relationship. But at the same time, it is very possible that you can also feel disconnected because you're giving up parts of yourself. So there's like that fine balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just giving that as an example of how it's possible, or getting so busy with work that I kind of lose myself and feel disconnected. And so what I do, I'd say, is making sure that I create space for myself and my self-care. That's a very, very important part of staying connected to myself while I'm, in this very expanded business that I'm in, and my all the responsibilities that I have in my life. But what I do make sure of, or I try to make sure of, is that I have time for the self-care and to actually just sometimes get super quiet and have absolutely nothing to do so that I can actually just breathe back into my body and get myself back, back into my body through like grounding work, through a yoga nidra, through just like these lying down meditations, just rest. I'd say really rest is like so helpful. And yeah, time for just like, alone time, maybe a date night with myself, really listening to what's going on the inside, touching in with my heart. Sometimes I do a meditation where I just keep my hand on my heart the whole time, and I'm really, really, my intention is just to connect back to my heart, you know?
Mhm. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that so much. I have a mentor. His name is Milton Hunt, and he's actually told me whenever I feel like this, it's important to reconnect with your heart and to ask yourself, like, heart, like, what do you need right now? And it will talk to you. It'll tell you, like, Hannah or Joy, I need love today. I need you to be more patient. I need you to be more forgiving. And I need you to forgive yourself. Like, your heart will actually talk to you. And I tried it and it did work. And it was like insane to me. So thank you for saying that.
Yes, absolutely. I do in my breathwork sessions, I have people go back to their heart, and there is like this really important moment where we touch in with the heart, and people are just they're so moved by it because they forget to touch in with their heart. So yeah.
And Joy, my last question for you today is, what is one thing that our listeners can do today after listening to this episode to start inward, which is the name of the podcast, and to reconnect with themselves?
Mm. So I'd say the first thing that you should do is to get quiet and to just bring more awareness to what's going on the inside. Just to listen, and without judging, without any expectation, without any, need to fix it right away, just to get quiet and to listen and to allow yourself the acceptance of what is going on the inside and have that awareness. And then from there, the practices that we spoke about that have to do with self-care and self-love.
Thank you so much, Joy. It's been a pleasure to have you on this podcast. Thank you for taking your time and being here today. I really appreciate it.
Such a pleasure. I loved connecting with you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. For more content like this, please subscribe, feel free to leave a comment, rating, and review, and share with someone you know. Until next week, my friends, please stay safe, know that you're loved, and never forget your worth.